Hello again, and welcome to our second midweek talk on our new series that we're following, Leadership Lessons from Joshua. And we started this series a couple of weeks ago, and it's basically following the life of Joshua as a leader and some of the lessons that we can learn from his experience and his walk with the Lord. We had our first talk a couple of weeks, as I said, and it was titled A Call to Leadership. A call to leadership. And today, I've titled our talk today, Take a Stone on Your Journey. Take a Stone on Your Journey. And you'd find out the reason why I've titled it, Take a Stone on Your Journey. Anyway, the passage we'll be looking at is Joshua 4, 1 to 7. And we will also look at Joshua 4, verse 21 to 24. It reads, it says this. When all the nation had finished passing over the Jordan, the Lord said to Joshua, Take 12 men from the people, from each tribe a man, and command them, saying, Take 12 stones from here out of the midst of the Jordan, from the very place where the priest's feet stood firmly, and bring them over with you and lay them down in the place where you lodge tonight. Then Joshua called the 12 men from the people of Israel, whom he had appointed, a man from each tribe. And Joshua said to them, Pass on before the ark of the Lord your God into the midst of the Jordan, and take up each of you a stone upon his shoulder, according to the number of the tribes of the people of Israel, that this may be a sign among you. When your children ask in time to come, What do these stones mean to you? Then you shall tell them that the water of the Jordan were cut off before the ark of the Lord. Then when it passed over the Jordan, the water of the Jordan were cut off. So these stones shall be to the people of Israel a memorial forever. Let's jump to verse 21 to 24. And he said to the people of Israel, who said to the people of Israel? Joshua said to the people of Israel, When your children ask their fathers in time to come, What do these stones mean? Then you shall let your children know, Israel passed over this Jordan on dry ground. Wow. For the Lord your God dried up the water of the Jordan for you until you passed over, as the Lord your God did to the Red Sea. We know about the story of what happened with Moses and the people crossing the Red Sea when they were coming out of Egypt. And it was the same thing that happened here as well with them as they were crossing the Jordan River, which he dried up for us until we passed over, so that all the people of the earth may know that the hand of the Lord is mighty, that you may fear the Lord your God forever. Okay, so basically what we have here is the Lord dried up the Jordan River for them to cross. They crossed on dry ground. I'll share a bit more about that. Anyway, a key encouragement we can all take from these passages, okay, what we've read, is the importance of remembering God's faithfulness and goodness. We need to be reminded of it. In life, we go through seasons. Some seasons are great seasons where we have lots of opportunities. We have God's blessings. We have favor. There's some seasons that it's like, you can't get anything wrong. Really, everything is working in your favor. But there's some seasons that it's not so good. Okay. I remember, I think at the age of 19, I experienced one of those challenging seasons. And it was like, issues after issues, challenges after challenges. I was only in sixth form, but it was one of the worst years in my life. But I faced other challenging seasons as well, years where it's like a standstill, nothing seems to be happening. I remember when I finished uni, it was one of those challenging seasons as well, where I applied for jobs. I came out with great aspirations and visions of things that I wanted to accomplish, and nothing was happening. So we all have those challenging seasons in life and seasons where we face God's favor. And when we look at Joshua, we can see that Moses had died and he was now the leader of the people, and he needed much encouragement. And the Lord had encouraged him. The Lord encouraged him in when we read chapter 3, verse 7. The Lord said to him, and this is such an encouragement. The Lord said to him, Today I will begin to exalt you in the sight of all Israel, that they may know that as I was with Moses, so I will be with you. That's just encouraging. Okay, as I was with Moses, so I'll be with you. And right after that encouragement, guess what happened? They had to cross the Jordan River. They had to face their first challenge, first obstacle. Okay? And the Lord had not told them that this was what he was going to do. It was when they came to the river or the Jordan that the Lord actually told them to take the ark, walk into the midst of the Jordan, and the water will be cut off. The water will be cut off. And when we think about it, okay, I think sometimes, as leaders, especially things to do with spiritual leadership, it's very difficult because, sometimes you hear from the Lord, other people have not heard from the Lord. And it doesn't always make sense. Actually, this leads into the point I'm going to make, okay? It doesn't always make sense to other people, but it's always good to go with the Lord's leading, obviously after weighing it up and sharing it with others as well, okay? But let's look at the first point that I want to make here. The first one I want to make is this. When we're faced with challenges, okay, God should be our first contact. God should be our first contact. Because here we find out that when Joshua was faced with this challenge of crossing the Jordan River, or the Jordan with a multitude of people. Okay, you have children, you have the elderly, you have the strong, you have the weak, you had people who were people who could not swim, people who could swim, people who could not swim, and most likely a lot of them couldn't swim because they grew up in the wilderness. So it was an obstacle before them. The Lord had told them that they were crossing over to inherit this land. And here it was, this obstacle before them. And as a leader, that's when people tend to look to you for direction, for leadership. What do you do? What do you do? And there's a place for obviously seeking advice from people. There's a place for that. There's a place for obviously using your own initiative by your experience. That's what experience is there for. That is what knowledge and insight is there for. But when it comes to things to do with spiritual leadership, when it comes to matters to do with faith, it's so important that God is our first contact, our first point of contact as a leader. In Joshua, we can see that he sought the face of the Lord. The Lord instructed him. And also a key point is this. The Lord instructed him to tell the priest to take the ark, go in the midst of the Jordan, and the water would stop flowing. Okay, the same way that he did for them with to do with the Red Sea, he was going to do the same to do with the Jordan. It's amazing. But a lot of people who are perhaps not in your shoes, people who have not heard the Lord say to you or instruct you, could have doubts. They could think, why are you taking the Ark of Covenant, our precious Ark, into the Jordan? Surely it's going to be swept away. Surely you're going to destroy us as a nation. What has been entrusted to you will be swept away. But the Lord had spoken. And it's good for us to go. Obviously, after weighing it up, sharing it with others, it's good to go with the Lord's leader. But a key lesson here is this, that God should be our first contact. He should be our first contact. One of Solomon's advice in the book of Proverbs, a famous one, Proverbs 3:5-6, it says this: trust in the Lord with all your heart and do not lean on your own understanding. In your own understanding, you would think actually taking the Ark of Covenant into the Jordan is too risky. But that was the Lord's leader. It says, in all your ways acknowledge him and he will make straight your path. In all your ways, everything you do, all your ways, not just some, all your ways as a leader, acknowledge it. Anyway, the second point is this: take a stone with you. Take a stone with you. What do I mean by this? As a leader, we are reminded that challenges will arise. Just like they faced the Jordan, challenges will arise. Take a stone with you. Sometimes unexpected, sometimes quite discouraging challenges as well, and matters that do arise that may cause you to question your calling, and if perhaps you're called to continue in your calling. Okay? During the pandemic, I became aware of at least I think about 4 or 5 guys I know in ministry. Some have stepped out of ministry, are no longer in the ministry. Some had faced some severe challenges really that had made them question whether that was still their calling. And we all face that as leaders, but we are reminded to take a stone with us. When you read this passage, we see that the Lord instructed Joshua to appoint 12 men from each tribe to go into the dry ground of of the Jordan, where the ark stood with the priest, and to take heavy stones, big stones on their shoulders. So not something small, but actually take heavy, big stones. For that would remind them that the Lord had done that in their lives. Basically, what this speaks of is it's a miracle. It's a miracle. It wasn't an everyday occurrence that the Jordan would be cut off. Okay, it wasn't an everyday occurrence. And as a leader, God gives us one or two or a few exceptional experiences or interventions that reminds us of his love. It reminds us and assures us that he is with us. Okay, it encourages us. And in those moments, we need to make a note of it. In those moments, we need to take a stone with us. In those moments, we need to write our testimony down. Okay, because the season could change. Because we could face challenging seasons that we would have to question or actually remind ourselves of God's faithfulness. That we would have to remind ourselves, is God with us? And when we look at the stone, when we read that testimony, we're reminded that he called, he equips, he is your strength. He is the one leading you. So take a stone with you on your journey. Don't forget your testimony. What has he said concerning your life? What are some of the encouragements he has given to you? Remind yourself of it. I have been reminded of that as well, just to make notes of some of the encouragements that the Lord has given to me along my journey of serving him. And the final point is this. Think about the next generation. Think about the next generation. When you read verse 21 to 24, you realize that one of the main reasons for taking up the 12 stones was for it to be used as a memorial and an object lesson, sort of like an object lesson to teach the next generation about God's faithfulness, his goodness, and his work of miracles, really, his mighty work in the life of the people of Israel. And it's the same thing. As leaders, we are to make disciples of the next generation. We are to show the next generation the stones that we have, share our testimonies with the next generation. It's really important. And I think that a key indicator of a successful ministry is the raising and empowering of young new leaders. It's really important. It's a key indicator of a successful ministry. Because when we look at the church, I think often there's been this reluctance and the delay of trusting young people really to step up and do the Lord's work. And because of that, in many congregations or many churches, we're seeing an aging congregation. We need to be focused on raising new leaders because that's God's heart. When we read this, and it's not only in this, you read again also in the book of Samuel, same thing happened as well. When the Lord instructed Samuel, or Samuel actually told the people to erect a stone to remind them of how far he has brought them. And when the next generation asked, what is the stone for? They would say, this is how far the Lord has brought us. This is what the Lord did for us. And we need to have that as an object lesson in our lives to remind ourselves and also raise up the next generation as well, teaching them the Lord's ways, teaching them of his love. But what stones do you have? What testimony do you have? What do you have to teach them of God's faithfulness? We're called to raise up leaders in the next generation. We're called to make disciples of the next generation. It's not always the here and now. Sometimes we think priority is it's just the adult ministry, the people for which we are called to cater for. But actually, who comes after us? That's a very good question to ask. And this calls us to remember the next generation, to disciple the next generation. Anyway, let's recap, okay? Think about the next generation. Think about the next generation. Take a stone with you. What's your testimony? Take a stone with you. And finally, God should be your first contact. Those are the things I picked up from the passage. Perhaps you picked up something else that you'd like to encourage us with. Make a comment, write a comment on it. Okay? God bless you, and hopefully see you again soon. Take care. Bye-bye.